boy, I'll tell you what. Don't you dare bring up anything with Zander about phony trades or anything, man. We bring our friend in from Birds 365. He is our boy, Big Z, Zander Krause. How you doing here, man?
What's up, Big Sills? How you doing, brother?
How's it going, dude? What do you think of the draft coming up here, man?
I think it's pretty good, man. I'm looking forward to it. Thursday night. I don't even know if they think they're going to make a pick on Thursday night. They might not even end up making a pick on that Thursday night. But no, it's going to be great. I think the second round, as you've been talking about, second and third round is where they're going to butter their bread in this sucker.
Yeah.
But it looks good, man. It looks good. I'm starting to like some more of the players, and I'm actually starting to turn on a couple of the players as well, where I'm like, hey, I don't know if I want that guy there based on where it is. So I'm looking forward to it, though, man.
You're watching more tape, I would imagine, right? On these guys,
yeah.
And you're starting to see.
I've watched a lot, though. I'm like taped out. Right
you know
now.
what, dude? You know what and why I trust you? Unlike the media guys in Philly don't watch college football. You do. You've been watching it for the last 7 years. You watch it. You watch it longer than that. I got it. I mean,
decade. When I visited the University of Tennessee in high school, and they played the University of Alabama, and Julio Jones, was it Julio or was it Amari Cooper? Who the fuck caught that? I thought it was Julio. One of the best receivers in Bama caught a big 90-yard touchdown in Neyland Stadium. That was when I really got into college football. After that,
man, I've been obviously played it and been in it, covered it, and all this and that, and I cover it each and every single day. I vote on the top 25. I vote for the Heisman and all. And some of the guys, by the way, I've got some dark horse picks too that people may in the 4th and 5th and 6th rounds. I got some sleeper picks too that I'm gonna share. So before I go here, Cooper DeJean. Will this draft determine what they're going to do with him?
Cooper?
Yeah.
By the way, real quick, I just wanted to be right. It was Amari Cooper, 80-yard touchdown in that game in Neyland Stadium. And he had in that game, he had 9 receptions for 224 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Who was the quarterback?
I was a sophomore in high school. Blake Sims.
Blake Sims. Shows you how that position has evolved. They
used to win natties with Jake Coker and AJ McCarron before they decided that they needed some quarterbacks.
The only thing good about McCarron was his old lady. She was great looking.
I hear you. I think he was a backup in the league for a long time. He might still be doing spring ball. Yeah, he might still be doing spring ball.
He played in St. Louis for my boy Anthony Beck.
Yeah, the Battlehawks. Yeah, that's right. No, but about Cooper, I don't think so. I mean, I think they have another year of, kind of, I don't want to say doing what you want with them, but Vic can kind of have an open slate of, kind of use this guy wherever you want to use him. If it's outside, it's outside. I think it's going to be inside. Vic already alluded to that. But once you get into that third year, that's when I think the team is going to, or the agent and the player are going to push to get outside. Now, the thing about that is, you got a guy in 2 years at the slot. Are you going to want to move him outside after that? But I think it depends how the board falls, right? I mean, if you end up with Trey Amos and early in round 2 or Maxwell Hairston or a player like that, yeah, maybe that does change what you do with Cooper DeJean. But I don't think going into the draft that's one of the guaranteed things that will come.
Well, who's taking over for Slay then?
Right now, Ringo.
Okay, well, that's not cutting it.
Well, to be fair, last year, Baum wasn't cutting it until he was. Last year, Nakobe Dean wasn't cutting it until he was. Last year, Quinion wasn't cutting it until he was. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying at some point, you're going to have to put your faith in guys that you're not sure on.
Okay,
that's just part of it.
Well, then why didn't Vic go to him as the third guy last year when they had issues at corner, when there were injuries, and he went to Rodgers? He never went to Keeley.
Yeah, that's a fair question. It's a fair question. Isaiah was also of no use in special teams versus Keeley was. He was one of the best gunners on the team. I don't think that's a reason to keep him off the field, but
Cooper in special teams.
Punt return, which is crazy. I hope they don't do that anymore.
Yeah, I'm done with that. I don't need that guy.
Yeah, he's too valuable to that defense now to be returning punts for 8-10 yards a punt. But yeah, I mean, look, you're not sold on Keely Ringo, clearly, and to be
Neither
blunt,
are they.
I don't think they are either. Because look at their top 30 visits. They got
Right.
Amos in here, Hairston in here, bunch of cornerbacks in here. So hey, maybe you're right. Maybe they draft a slot. You know, that Jacob Parrish, he's probably a 3rd, 4th rounder. He was in on a top 30 visit. And he's a slot guy. He's 5'9". You put him in the slot, maybe you do feel better about putting Cooper on the outside. But I don't think they're ready. I don't think they're ready to move Cooper out there unless they have to.
So let me throw this at you here. Q or Cooper? If you had to live without one of those.
I heard you say this. I'm taking Coop. Just more versatile player. Do you think he can do more on the football field?
No
it's not a knock on Quinn.
Q. No
yeah,
slight.
Right. It's not a slight on Q. But, and by the way, you know, to be fair to Q, I don't think he was put in a position to do as much. Now, I don't think he could, but he also wasn't asked. Think about it. You know, this defense asked him to be his own corner, right? It didn't become that because that was his skill set. That was what Vic Fangio was running, whether Quinyon was here or not. So you haven't seen it from Q, but Cooper is just that versatile dude, man. Like his instinct sells. I've been saying this though, because one of the things, like, and even watching college tape, this comes to mind. But one of the things I love to look for in players right now is instinct. Like, you can be super athletic, but if you don't have the right instinct, if you don't have the it factor, if you don't have the ability to translate your talent into tangible results on a field with other players around you in certain game situations, you're not going to be as good as you can be. Look at the best players, even in history, in any sport, right? I mean, LeBron James, not only great talent, great instinct. Why did Cooper DeJean do so good at last year? Great talent, also great instinct. So I've been really trying to find guys where not only do you jump off the page, not only are you the fastest guy on the field, not only did you get a bunch of tackles or a bunch of sacks, but how did you read the defense? How did you read the man who was across from you? What did you do in certain situational football plays? So I've really been trying to look at that. And that's one of the things I think Cooper has, just head and shoulders above other people, where he's super athletic, yes, but dude, his instinct, I mean, he read Mahomes like he was a book. You don't see that happen all the time. So I think Cooper, man, because Cooper is just that dude. He is that freaking dude, man.
As I've been telling you folks since week 6, I think this dude's going to have a better career than Quinyon Mitchell. And I think this guy, he's impressed me. From the time they put him in, he's changed the entire landscape of that defense. And wouldn't you agree? If take Carter out of the conversation, who do you think between Q, Bond, or Cooper had the most impact on that defense being the #1 ranked defense?
Q, Bond, or Cooper? I'd probably go Bond, Coop, then Q. Actually, you might be able to go Q over Coop there. I don't know if that thing, think about it. Remember what you said to me a little bit ago where, hey, man, look at them looking at all these secondary guys. You know, maybe Vic feels all right about having a competent edge rushing group versus a superstar at the edge, as long as he has a great secondary. So, like, if you take Quinyon off that team and you're not as locked down in that secondary, how much does that change for what Coop was able to do? Think about it. Coop could play all over the field because he had 2 lockdown corners. Well, not lockdown. You know what I mean? Lockdown in the zone to be able to do that. So I'm leaning Coop, but I could see why you'd make a case for Q if someone wanted to go that route.
For me, it's Cooper, and I don't believe – I listen, I think it's close.
Even over Bond?
I think Bond and him are very close, and I'll tell you why. Fuck, you got away with it with James Bradbury in 22 playing the zone corner. I mean, that guy played second team, second team All Pro. That helped you get to a Super Bowl. Albeit the guy fell off the map after that because the pressure on the defense at 23 wasn't what it was in 22. But you had a guy who was a guy from Carolina cut by the Giants, turned out to be a second team Pro Bowler to a point where they gave him a 3-year contract.
Right.
So you got away with that. When you put that kid after the bye week in that slot, it changed the entire look of that defense and the feel of it.
It did. That's a stone cold fact. I mean, there's no doubt about it. That thing after week 4, we were wondering what the hell they were going to be. I mean, we had no clue.
Was good. Vaughn was good. He was good. He's been good from Brazil to New Orleans. He was good. But when you put that kid in, there was a different feel. Your teacup and Derrick Henry, your pick sixes and Super Bowls. There was the middle of that zone shrunk, it felt to me.
I agree.
You know what I'm saying?
I agree. Ask Jamar Chase if the middle of that zone shrunk. He couldn't get a 4th and 2 on Cooper DeJean, man. So no, you're definitely right about that too. That's the objective truth, that the defense the defense improved the most from the addition of Cooper DeJean over basically anybody else that they put in last year. So there's no doubt about that. But all great pieces. You know, that's the one thing. I understand the conversation, but I do think they're all great pieces. And look, one of the things we've talked about with what was so special about the team last year is they were so complimentary, right? I mean, everything worked from the offense to the defense, even intra-offense it worked, the way Saquon complemented the offensive line, the way it was vice versa. On the defensive side, you had Vaughn, who complemented the play of even Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter perfectly. Milton Williams was able to eat because Jalen Carter was eating blocks. I mean, it was such a complimentary team. I have a hard time kind of taking anybody out of it, which is why it hurt when we lost all those guys on defense. But they were all a big piece of the puzzle last year for sure.
All right. On this program, we explore everything. Okay? This is what we do here. This is what I've done for 40 years. And I'm going to ask you this question. So you're right. If Malachi Starks and Walter Nolan happen to be taken sooner in the draft, and you're down there at 32, I heard you make a comment on your show today, which was right. What are we going to do down there? What do we got? You're going to take – who are you taking down there, okay? Okay. Well, would you ever contemplate sending that pick number 32 to the Steelers for TJ Watt?
A cap-crunching team that's got contracts coming up is going to send a draft pick for a $40 million edge at 30 years old.
I'm just trying to keep you good.
I hear you. I'm not saying you're wrong for bringing it up. There's people out there who love that move. I wouldn't make that move personally. I think you just built a Super Bowl team, Sills.
Okay, so wait, you're not making that move over money, not talent, because the kid's going to the Hall of Fame.
TJ Watts. I'm not saying he's not talented. I'm making that move because 1, money, and 2, because of the roster building philosophy that I've employed for the last 5 years that has worked so well. I'm not going to take a freaking Molotov cocktail and throw it on and light it on fire. I'm just not doing that. Look at what we did to be able to build the Super Bowl defense last year. So much of that was built through the draft with Jalen Carter, Nolan Smith, Nakobe Dean. I mean, all Milton Williams, Moro Ajomo, all at Cooper, Quinion, Reed Blankenship was an undrafted free agent. All of these guys. So to take that philosophy and say, I don't want to take a top draft pick this year. I want to go and spend $40 million. Sometimes I'd say that's right. But for a team that just shed $8 million on their safety, for a team that has to shed the $12 million nut on the tight end, for the team that's about to pay $40 million to Jalen Carter and $25 million to Nolan Smith, I just don't think that makes sense right now. I think I'd rather take the draft pick, get the value out of it, the maximum value out of it over the long term. Obviously have to hit on the draft pick, but the philosophies work so well right now. If it ain't broke, Sills, don't fix it. I'm going to say no to the trade for TJ Watt.
Because he has done that before for A.J. Brown. He has traded.
Yes, he has. Especially, and to your point, it's kind of a good comp because the offense, remember, we started 2-5 that year. It was the first, well, before we had A.J. Jalen got out of the gate a little slow with Nick Sirianni. There was talk about Nick Sirianni. How long is he going to make it in Philly? They turned that whole season around. The offense started to gel toward the end of the year, but you always felt like there was a missing piece, right? You got to the playoff game, we got blown out by Tom Brady and the Buccaneers. We needed a wide receiver to take that next step. How he identified that the quarterback was here to stay, and boom, made that move. Here with this defense, you could look at this thing and be like, boy, with the guys we lost and with one acquisition of a great edge rusher, this team could be the number one defense for 2 years straight. So I understand it, but $40 million on a 30-year-old. It's like the opposite of what they've done the last 3 years,
Okay.
approach-wise, philosophy-wise.
There's no doubt, especially this season here with money.
Yeah.
So you mentioned, so let's explore that. And again, it's an exercise, folks. So I don't want to hear any crying. So since obviously 3 days, there's going to be the 5th draft. So since 2020, the Philadelphia Eagles, and you're not the only one, everyone has proclaimed them as drafting fabulous. So what I'm going to do here is let's take a look at two ends of this, the last 5 years, and how, again, this is what they're doing. It's not free agency. We talked free agency before. This is about, and again, I don't have to sit here and fucking quantify what I'm going over here with people, but let's just take a look at their actions. So from the 2020 draft, there's 2 dudes on the team. There's Jalen Hurts and there's Jack Driscoll, and no defensive guys. So there's 2 dudes, 0 defensive guys.
Man, Jalen Hurts saved that draft because outside of him, that would have been pretty putrid.
In 2021, Devontae Smith, 2nd contract. Dickerson, 2nd contract. They couldn't afford Milton. Milton's a 25-year-old kid, 26-year-old kid in New England. And there's nobody else on that draft. Patrick Johnson, they brought back.
They brought back this year, yeah.
So there's 0 dudes that have had an impact on that team the last 4 years, except for the 2 offensive guys who got 2nd contracts. 0 on defense. 2022. Let's take a look at this. Now, this is Jordan Davis. This is Cam Jurgens, who just got a 2nd contract, so automatically you get that. Nakobe Dean, Johnson, Calcaterra. Do you believe that Jordan Davis is getting a 2nd contract in Philadelphia?
Right now, I'm going to say yes, but that could drastically change on Friday or Saturday.
If people are sitting there circling Walter Nolan, how could they be sold on?
No, I don't think that would do it. I don't think that would stop Jordan Davis. He's not that player at all. He's good in the pass rush, Walter Nolan. In fact, the more I watch his tape, boy, I like the player a lot, but he does have holes in his game. Like, he's not a guaranteed shoe-in guy that's going to be, that great. He had some issues at Ole Miss, creating pressure and stuff. So,
I don't see Jordan Davis getting a contract extension at $18 million. I see him picking up that 5th year, which gives them 2 in lateral, which I think.
They don't do that yourselves. When's the last time the Eagles picked up a 5th-year option with no deal attached?
I can't remember.
2010? Like,
do you wait a minute? I hadn't thought about this. You don't think they let that guy go into this year without picking up that extension? They decline it. I hadn't thought that. You think they decline that 5th year?
I don't think they decline it.
I don't either.
That's why I think an extension's coming, because I think they'll work it in with the 5th-year option, similar to Devontae Smith. He's getting $25 million a year, but boy, the cap hits on that sucker are so low.
You're going to pay nearly $60 million for 2 guys.
What was the 5th-year option on Jordan? How much?
He's 3rd tier. It's like 11-2.
All right. Here's what I think they'll do with this. I think they'll give him, it'll be framed up as a 3-year, $50 million deal. It'll really be 4 years, $60 million because of the 5th-year option. Like Devontae, remember it was reported 3-year extension, $75 million, but they worked in the 5th-year option. There was all sorts of void. Like, it was way different than what it was originally reported. 3-year, $50 million, perfect, Casey. That's exactly what I was thinking. 50-year plus the $11 million 5th-year option. Now you got 4 years. The average is probably $15 million. With the cash you're going to give them up front, you're looking at cap hits of probably under $10 million for the duration of the contract. I think they're going to keep that. I think they're going to remember, there's a pride thing here too, Sills. There's a pride thing here too. You spent the 13th pick on Jordan Davis. He hasn't been a total trash can. He hasn't been obviously a big player, but he does stop the run. So I think that's going to come into it. I think Jordan Davis will get an extension.
See, I do not. But if they end up giving and taking at 32, say they move up to 26 with the Rams, that means you're going to be paying $16 million to Walter Nolan, and that was going to come to $4.8 million. You're going to pay him $4.8 million. You're going to pay him $15 million, and you're going to pay Carter $40 million. That's 13. That's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's $93 million for 3 ball players that are your defensive tackles.
Yeah, but the cap hits aren't going to reflect $93 million.
No, I'm talking. Well, the cap hits wouldn't have really reflected C.J. Gardner either. They did that purely out of money.
Well, that was a cap.
Money now. They're still 28. I looked it up. They're still $23 million under the cap.
Yeah, they got plenty of cap space.
Right.
They got plenty of cap. They're saving on money.
They're saving money, right?
Yeah.
Plus, you just gave a kid a contract of $18 million on the offensive side of the football.
All right, let me show you something. All right, I'm going to show you this graphic here. I'm going to pull it up on the screen. I want everybody to look closely at it, and this is going to be another reason why I believe that the Eagles will pay Jordan Davis. Whether you like the player or not you Sills, anybody, I don't give a shit. It's not about my opinion or your opinion. I think the Eagles have identified that they want to keep the player in-house. This is one of the reasons why. Here is a chart, okay, of the last year's regular season football teams. On the left are your most run-heavy teams. On the right are your most pass-heavy teams. On the left side, you have 6 for 6 on playoff teams, and 4 of the 6 were top teams in the entire NFL. On the left side, you have 6 of the most pass-heavy teams, and not one of those teams last year made the playoffs. I'm not here to tell you passing's not important. I am here to tell you I think the shift in the NFL has started to get back to balance of teams are going to exploit undersized linebackers. Teams are going to exploit undersized edge rushers, and they're going to run the ball. You have a guy right now that allows your defense to be versatile and take away, or in many cases, mitigate the run of other football teams. That's the reason I think they're going to keep Jordan Davis, because I think this trend will continue in the NFL.
Well, they ripped that whole theory up in the offseason by allowing all those players to leave. I mean,
you didn't lose any run stoppers in the offseason.
Yes, you did. You're trying to.
Josh Sweat was good against the run.
Why do you dismiss the fact that Josh Sweat and Milton Williams were part of that defense?
They were good. I'm not dismissing it, but are you seriously going to sit here and tell me that they're
those
irreplaceable dudes?
Those guys were 3-down players, man. Those guys
they're not irreplaceable, bro.
Actually, wait a minute. Milton's 10 times the player that Jordan was. He is. His versatility, played 3 downs for you. I mean, the backup guy, Moro Jomo, had as many reps as him. I mean, I think if anybody's replaceable, it's Davis. You
better find a guy that can.
That's why they're looking at Walter Nolan.
Dude, there's about 40 dudes in the draft right now that are 280 to 300-pound defensive tackles that do what Walter Nolan does. They might not do it as well as him. There's like 2 dudes in the draft who are 330-pound run stuffers. And my take is, if Tyleik Williams happens to be one of the picks who was in on a top 30 visit and he's like 340 pounds, Jordan Davis Sileo is probably going to be right on this one. So let's see what happens. But
absolutely. No. Hey, by the way, this is an exercise. So you and I disagree on Davis. All right. How about Nakobe? So we'll split that. So Nakobe, you think he gets a second contract?
I don't. I think it's too much of a crunch for him. I think the injury happened at legitimately the worst time possible for him as a player. Horrible. Literally the end of the year.
And he was playing really well.
The end of the year, going into the final year of his deal, so much so that he's going to miss some time potentially in the beginning of his 4th year on the contract. So, like you said, he's played, 19 out of 51 games. I mean, that is an awful hit.
He started 19 of 51.
Right. Balls. He's probably spent, I don't know how many games on the IR. He's ended every season now on the IR. He had a big surgery. Now, apparently the surgery went super well. Maybe he'll be ready for the start of the year, but that's just one piece of the pie. The other piece of the pie is our friend Zach Bond, who we all love, and I'm happy we paid him, but Howie barely wanted to pay one linebacker. Do we really sit here and going to believe that Howie paid $18 million to Bond, and now they're going to give, 10, 12, 14 to Nakobe Dean? I don't think it's going to happen. I think they got Zach Bond. They identified him as the piece to pay at the linebacker unit, and they're going to let Nakobe Dean walk after this year.
I think they want Trotter to win that job.
I do too. It's a good take by you. I mean, by the way, the Eagles put out a video today, and this doesn't mean much, but it will show you what the organization thinks a little bit, right? So they did a little fun video, how he was like rolling through flashcards of questions that came from fans. One of the questions was, what was your favorite draft day call to a prospect? He said it was Jeremiah Trotter. Again, that doesn't mean he wants him to win, but this organization,
that means a lot to me.
This organization loves Trotter. They love his father. They love the legacy that he had in Philly. They love that he grew up in this city, went to high school in this city. They love all of those things. If he's available or he's competent enough to compete and be there, I would say he's going to have the upper hand. By the way, he's cheaper right now too.
That's right. This has nothing to do with it, actually, in theory.
Yeah, that has literally zero.
Nobody's saying that.
Wait, Daz, so you think Nakobe Dean – all right, Daz. You think Nakobe Dean is going to get a $10 million plus contract this year in Philadelphia after Howie just gave an $18 million contract to a linebacker? I'll repeat that.
And what Zander just said, and another 15 to Carter. You think they're going to give him, because he's also eligible to have that thing come up here?
They wouldn't give TJ Edwards $7 million. He led the NFL in tackles.
We're thinking. We're all thinking here, because Dean is eligible right now too. Okay.
Yes, Dean is eligible right now.
He's eligible. They're not doing that. Now, so let's do this. And from 2000 to 2022, you're going to say that Jordan is going to get a second contract. I'm saying no. I say there's nobody on defense that has gotten a second contract in those 3 drafts. You're saying one. Okay, so let's go to 23. Carter for sure. Smith for sure. You think Sidney Brown this offseason is going to get a contract extension?
I'm gonna opt to no there.
How about this? Let's be fair to the player. Heading into this,
incomplete.
Let's be fair. Heading into this year, as of right now, heading into this draft and heading into September, that could change.
Yes.
Do you think Sidney Brown right now, in their mind, do you think is going to earn a second contract?
Yeah. Right. Well, no, not yet to the contract, but yet to the player. Here's the thing with Sidney. He's probably the most incomplete of these picks, because of he came on at the end of his rookie year, and then he tore his ACL at the very end of the season. You could maybe make an argument that the Eagles wouldn't have brought back C.J. Gardner-Johnson last year if he didn't get that injury at the end of the year. Remember, that knocked him out for the start of the season completely, which changed the Eagles' entire offseason plans of, who's playing safety this year. They revisited C.J. Gardner-Johnson. The price was right, and they brought him back, and the rest is history. You're Super Bowl champions. But Sidney hasn't quite had the chance to redeem himself. So this is his chance. If they draft Malachi Starks, this is a foregone conclusion. Sidney Brown, I'll talk to you later, brother. If he starts this year and he plays competent football, potentially you could bring him back. Now, the other component here is, John's telling me this team is going to pay Reed Blankenship. It's probably going to look right around $10 million. No, my point with that is, though, are you paying Reed and Sidney? I don't know. Or do they go back to the safety well in the draft as a cheap player, and put him in there? That's one of the things that I think people talk about drafting a safety this year. All right. If you draft Malachi Starks, yes, he's going to start this year. But there's a couple other safeties in this draft. That Penn State kid, that Makuba kid from Texas. There's a couple other safeties there. I wouldn't be surprised if the Eagles drafted one of them, put him on the bench this year. All right. Let Sidney Brown start, and then you kiss him goodbye and you have your safety in the room because you don't want to pay, or maybe it's the case with Reed Blankenship. I don't think you're going to pay both of those guys. So that could be one of the reasons that they're scouting so many safeties right now in this draft. I read something today, Sills, and this isn't a perfect way to look at it, but one of the things you can do to telegraph, what the Eagles might be thinking in the NFL draft is not always, what do we need this year? It's actually, what do we need in 2026 and 2027? Because many times they will go down that road and remember when you drafted Cam Jurgens and everybody was mad? Remember when you drafted Landon Dickerson and everybody was mad? Like
You
they'll
had Kelsey in the room, though.
You had Kelsey in the room for 2 more years.
And you had Isaac Sayamalo in the room.
No, but that's my point. Look for positions that not only are a need this year and next season, but also the following season of where the contracts might be. All these guys Sileo is bringing up, are they going to get new contracts? Mark down the ones you say no. Those could be guys or those could be positions the Eagles will draft at this year.
You think Keely Ringo gets a second contract?
Right now, I'm going to say no. He's a 4th-round pick. He's a very young player. If you can get him on a team-friendly deal, I think they would do it simply because he's still so raw and so young, and probably now has pretty good experience for his age, just being around, obviously been through a team that won a Super Bowl, has seen what it's like to be a part of that organization, that culture, play that long. All those things are good experiences for a backup player, whether you played or not. But it's this year. Like if he plays this year, yeah, I think they're going to give him a contract, honestly. If he doesn't play this year, it's obvious. They're not going to give him a contract.
I think they're going to draft a corner in this draft, and I think that'll be a telltale sign of what they're going to do to him because of all the people and the DBs that they've brought in. Look at their behavior.
Yeah.
Moro Ojomo is the weirdest dude to think about here because, he was an important part of that defense last year as a swing tackle. Now they've got him penciled in. But right now, everyone's trying to replace him and put him back in that role again. Now, could you see them signing him in that role? I could. Okay. But if they're going to make him a starter, that's a different pay level, dude. I mean, By the way, he's up this coming year also for a contract extension. And you're looking to potentially replace him. You think Moro Ojomo gets a team-friendly extension?
I think that's possible, but it's like a Milton Williams thing, though. Like, dude, if he plays too good, which would be good for us this year, he's probably going to price himself out of Philly just because of the money you have coming on the defensive line. So, look, I like Moro Ojomo. I'd love it. I'd love it if he got another contract, but he's kind of teetering that line where it's like if you can get him on a team-friendly, before he really breaks out, I think they would do it. If you can't, you're probably not doing it. And by the way, a real quick update because it was interesting what you just said there about the cornerback with Keely Ringo. And if you look at the top 30 visits and you're like, whoa, Maxwell Hairston. Okay, that's one. And then you're looking, you see Jacob Parrish. All right. You got Trey Amos. That's a guy that could go in the first round there. You brought in Justin Wallet. Like they're bringing in a lot of corners. That might tell you what they think right now of Keely Ringo as a whole. And by the way, what I just said about safety, the most recent, and I didn't know this until just a second, the most recent addition to the top 30 visit list is the safety from Penn State, Kevin Winston Jr., another safety to the list after Walter Nolan yesterday. So they're telegraphing a little bit, which might tell you both of those youngsters, safety and corner, we don't love them and we're going to draft. So it's going to be
that's Vic talking.
Yeah,
okay.
I agree.
So 2020, just to recap, 2021, and in 2022, you think Jordan will? I don't, which means that personally, I don't think they have had a guy that they're going to give a second contract to from 20 to 22. And 23, I believe Carter gets it. I get Smith gets it. And I'm going to say Moro Ojomo. So that's 3 contracts in 4 drafts from 2020. So let's go to 2024 here. And this is kind of tough to speculate because it's been only 1 year. Tough. However, I think the kids, the top 3 are projects that they really, really, really want to build a defense with.
Yeah, I agree.
Cooper and Jalix Hunt. So that's
it's the top 3 and it's Trotter there. The rest are not.
Yeah, I'll put Trotter in there too.
Trotter obviously has to earn it. Like, let's be real. But I think that's the one that the Eagles would like to see him succeed. And if he did, they would be happy to give him a contract.
4, 5, 6, 7. So 7 guys in 5 years on defense will earn second contracts will earn second contracts. They've drafted 41 picks. How do you think they've done defensively in the draft?
Look, I think they've done pretty good. Like, I mean, even Milton Williams, who's a guy who doesn't check the box of what you're doing right now. Like, that was a successful pick.
Yeah, but he's not on the team building it and building that defense. He's
Yeah,
25
but
years old.
sometimes still, not every pick is made to
Dude,
build your team, bro.
yeah. When you let loose of a 25-year-old player because you can't afford him, that because you're top heavy in your salary cap and you're spending money on one side of the ball and you're top heavy in your cap and you have to make these fundamental financial moves. You're not keeping players.
I think after you get out of
you're not keeping players on that side of the field because of money, not because of production.
I know that. But my point to you is that I'm having a hard time just saying
he's not a factor on your team going forward.
I know, but after the second round, Sills, not every player there is drafted to be a building.
So you're not trying to get to a second contract with players?
That's not what I said. Where did I say that at all? I'm saying when you're a Super Bowl team, you need rookies, brother.
You're changing the conversation up on what I'm saying.
No, I'm not.
When you do that. Because
I don't think Milton Williams is a bad pick because he didn't get a second.
That's not player development then when you have a guy only earn one contract.
Oh, really? A guy that just got $28 million in the open market wasn't good player development?
How he's drafting a guy, he's looking to draft a guy for one contract.
I didn't say that. I said after the second
what
round,
are you saying?
After the second round, it's more likely that you would have players that you view in that light. Yes. Teams don't look at things only in 10-year windows for draft picks. I got to put a Super Bowl team in the next 2 years.
How is that player development when the kid doesn't get to a second contract?
I didn't say it wasn't.
How is that player development?
I didn't say it wasn't player development. I said not every player is here for a second contract.
Right. You only have 7 guys in 4 years and 4 drafts earn a second contract on defense.
Okay, so was Milton Williams a bad pick?
At the end of the day, he's not a factor on your team in player development. All the shit you did with him, he's now in New England in his prime. I think that's not a great move.
Okay.
But no, you're right. So
we are at the opposite end of the spectrum.
Watch this. Check it out. So, okay, Landon, second deal. Mulata, second deal. Lane, 5th deal. Center, second deal. Hurts, second deal. Devontae, second deal. Tight end, second deal. You don't have anybody on defense you're doing that with right now.
Offense is priority. Defense is a luxury. You don't draft 3rd round, 4th round, 5th round defensive guys and judge them based on the second contract. Milton Williams was a smashing success.
Absolutely not when you let a 25-year-old D tackle leave.
Dude, he was a contributor on the Super Bowl defense.
The idea of drafting is to player development and keep people in the building to get these guys to second and third contracts. That's what they're doing. Yeah. Bro, you and I have a different opinion of player development. When you're just developing players to get the one deal and not a second deal, you're not player developing.
No, I agree with that. But I'm saying, don't you agree? I agree. You're right. If the players get to a second deal, you could view it as that. Can you also agree, though, that not all players are going to be drafted for the goal of getting to a second contract on that given team? If I'm a team that's an expensive team and I need production for cheap from a 3rd rounder like you just got in Milton Williams, and then he leaves the room, that's not really an unsuccessful.
You're not an expensive team. You're an expensive offense.
I know, but that's part of our philosophy, and that philosophy has also gotten us to 2 Super Bowls in 3 years.
Okay. I knew that would go there. We're talking about what's going on Thursday on how well people are telling me. Now, look, the top end guys, Carter, DeJean, Q, all those guys are just really great picks. But in the last 4 drafts, you are not, dude. When you player develop, so you built Milton Williams up for this. He was a backup for 2 years. He earned a starting job. And then as soon as this guy got to his prime, he let him roll out the building. You had a guy in the 4th round who, in Josh Sweat, had question marks in high school because of his knee injury. You built this guy up with 41 sacks in 5 years, and you let that guy go for $20 million, and he's 26 years old. I don't know about you, man, but to me, that is not developing your players. That's being financially frugal with the money that you're spending on one side of the ball. And I get it. That's their philosophy.
Wait,
But
so is the take that Milton
to sit
Williams?
there and tell me that their player developing these contracts and these players nobody gets to a second contract.
Because they don't want them to, man.
Okay. Okay.
I said after the second round, you care a little bit less about that. If you get max value out of a player like Milton Williams, he's the perfect example. He just walked out the room. Are you really saying we didn't develop Milton Williams?
Yeah, you developed them for New England.
Okay, good. And we got max value out of him when he was here in Philly for a third
on one
round
deal. Right, on one deal. Right.
But we needed $1 million player.
Every one of your offensive guys are on second and third deals. Nobody on defense is.
So is the expectation that all 7 picks get drafted after year if they don't make the
you
second?
got 11 guys on that side of the ball. Nobody has a second deal.
But what, you want the whole defense to have a second deal? It doesn't work like that. You need
I want somebody to.
Okay, Jalen Carter will have one.
Okay, I'm talking about what you've done in the last 4 drafts. Nobody on that defense has a second contract, which means everyone, they go with this.
That's because none of them are eligible yet.
3 years and they're out. Oh, wait
the
a
last
minute.
4 years, their contracts are 4 years.
Jordan Davis and Nakobe Dean are not going to be resigned to that. If you're going to draft a guy in the first round at 32 or 26 or wherever, then you're going to turn around and have to pay potentially Moro Jomo $3, $4, $5, $6 million. Then you're going to have to turn around and pay 41 or 40 million to Jalen Carter. You're going to pay 16 or 15 million on an extension. He's not taking 11.5 or 12 or 13. He's going to need to be up there near 15 million. And you're going to pay $55 million for 2 tackles after you just let 2 edge rushers go because they couldn't get the second deals. All right. I mean, hey, I get it. You're right. It's the philosophy of.
Hey, do you think the Eagles should have paid Milton $28 million?
No, I think they should have been a little better in how they balanced their cap and how they balance it instead of paying everything on one side of the football.
What do you mean better? They just won the Super Bowl. How do you? What do you mean?
I'm saying is, well, now here you are again, back in the situation on defense with all your holes again. You had
the team won.
You had a generational defense you ripped apart.
Okay, so when you say balance the cap better, what would be your solution to that? Not pay A.J. Brown or not pay Devontae Smith or not pay Saquon Barkley?
I'm just saying that it's going to catch it's going to catch them here, and it has, because name me one move you've made right now to better your team.
From last year to this year?
From February 9th.
Or Zach Bond, I think was obviously a big one. But yeah, I mean, everything else has been player loss up to this point. That's what happens when you're an expensive football team. But to sit here and say that the philosophy of team building was wrong is just egregious. They went to 2 Super Bowls in 3 years. It clearly wasn't wrong.
I think your defense, and you, by the way, again, the majority of the players that are on your team, like the 2-star on both sides of the ball, your top 2 players on offense are trades or free agents. The second best player on defense is a free agent. Okay, Bond, Barkley, and AJ, those were not draft picks. Those were selections making draft moves, trades, or signing in free agency, not draft. Carter's a slam dunk. Landon, Mulata, all of that. Lane, Hurts, all of that. But again, the side that suffers, it was would you agree that defense, the way it played, that has to be the best defense in Eagle history, even Gangrene, because of what they did and how they took apart Mahomes. Within a matter of 2 months, that thing doesn't even resemble itself.
Well, I don't agree with that, but to a large extent, you lost a lot of it. I agree with that. I mean, for sure. But yeah, I mean, look, this is the philosophy, though. I mean, I think your pushback is more because you value defensive players more. My pushback is not that I value one or the other more. It's that their plan, objectively speaking, has worked successfully.
Yeah, what people are trying to tell me is that, again, from 20 to 22, there's not going to be one player that will earn a second contract. We'll separate with Jordan. I don't believe there'll be a player earn a second contract.
So is the only thing that matters what a player does on a second contract?
No, it matters to me because it's about getting to the second and third like the Steelers do.
Yeah,
and
but that's for individual players, Sills. I'm
dude,
talking
bro,
about
that's how if you draft a kid, the objective is to try to keep that kid in your building because of the money, the valuation, the drafting.
Can someone get me a percentage of players that sign a second deal with the team that drafted them? What's the percentage on that?
Okay, well, let me say this. How can you have 3 years where you're not going to have one guy earn a second contract on defense? You think
because you're rotating the door. Because you're paying $100 million to the offensive line. Would you rather cut the offensive line to pay Milton Williams? Because I fucking wouldn't.
Okay, so like I said, for 3 years, from 20 to 22, there won't be one player on defense earn a second contract. Okay.
And what does that mean to you?
That means they're not developing players on that side of the football. They develop them to what you say. One contract and you're out. No, because that's what they've done.
You need cheap production, Sills.
Oh, okay. So what they've done, okay, so we'll agree on this then, that players on defense, most likely, will only earn one contract and they'll move on because they don't sign guys. That's what do you mean? That's what they're doing.
Not what I said. I said after the second round, you have different goals for players. If you have a team that has a $100 million offensive line, $50 million in receivers, a $50 million quarterback, you have to have cheap production some places. Milton Williams has a third-round pick. A supreme success for the Eagles. Because he didn't get a second contract in Philly.
So you're looking at Jordan Mailata. When Jordan Mailata's taken in the 7th round, because he ended up getting his, I think it's second or third now. That to me, that's a player development. You found a guy in latter rounds. He's earned 3 contracts and he's turned into a stud and you kept him and you're paying him. You don't do that on defense.
Okay, so you're by your estimation or by the way you are grading these.
I'm going by what they've done.
Is a failure for the Eagles. I disagree vehemently.
What are you disagreeing on? This is what they did.
I don't because they pay the offense. This isn't news.
Okay,
you need cheap production on
I
rookie
know
deal.
that. I know
not
that.
everyone is there to get a second deal in Philly.
This is not an opinion. This is what they're doing. Nobody gets second year. Nobody gets second contracts. Everybody on offense does. Okay, we've come to the conclusion of that. That's what it's not really what I'm arguing. This is what I'm pointing out. There's going to be 7 guys in 41 picks that will get a second contract in 4 years that play defense. Okay, that's right. This is what they do. The formula on how they look at defense, like they say, there's no doubt about it. It is by far a priority. But when people are telling me that they sit here and develop these guys, according to you, just like you said, if you're drafted in the second and third round, count on one contract. Right?
It's a fair point. I mean, it does certainly look like that, but that's what happens when you're paying $100 million to your offensive line. I mean, another guy got signed yesterday. And then you also have the top paid running back in the NFL. You also have the top paid receiver in the NFL. Like, that's obviously going to have to be the give. I'm not saying you're wrong, but
Zander, just do this.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I can't believe you would say that Milton Williams wasn't successful to the Eagles because
I'll get as soon as I get Mike Gullick on here, I'm going to point out to him that in the last 4 drafts, only 7 guys on defense will get second contracts. And the objective of drafting players is try to get player development into getting second and third contracts because you drafted the kid, you developed the kid, you do that, you're spending a ton of money. By the way, Zander, end result is 2 Super Bowls. I get it. This is how they do business, but they're constantly going to have that revolving door.
Yeah, and they're going to have to keep drafting well on defense.
That's right. This draft's important to them, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Right. It absolutely is. All right, brother. Great segment, man. I'll catch you up tomorrow.
Conversation with you, brother. Great conversation.
Yep, great stuff. Appreciate you, Sills.
You got it. Me too, brother. All right. So let's do this here. And I'm going to do that exercise with Mike Gullick here. Let's bring him up here. Let's bring our friend up here, Mike Gullick. Mike, how you doing, brother? I appreciate it. Hopefully you had a great Easter.
Oh, it was wonderful. Had all the grandkids in. So it was great seeing the grandkids, but now I need a friggin' vacation.
Hey, man, Grandpa's moving around, going everywhere, right? Taking them to the zoo and all good, right?
Oh, yeah, the zoo, the aquarium.